You probably bought honey this week, thinking it was one of the safest things in your kitchen.
Here's what the label isn't telling you. Honey is one of the most faked foods on the planet.
10 brands on this list can't prove what's actually inside the jar. We're talking Walmart, Costco, Target.
Names you trust every single week. Only 4 brands made it through clean.
And the brand that's gonna shock you most isn't the cheap one.
It's the one sitting in the natural food aisle with raw printed on the front in bold. Number 10, Great Value Honey. Cheap, everywhere, and almost never questioned. That familiarity is exactly where the problem hides. Great Value Honey isn't made by Walmart directly.
It's bottled by outside packers, third-party contractors.
And which specific packer filled your jar is not information you can easily find. The label doesn't clearly name a country of origin. What's typically inside is a blend from multiple countries, mixed to hit a consistent flavor and price point. The front of the jar doesn't mention any of that. When independent investigators tested store-brand honeys, Great Value was among the brands that came back with pollen removed. No pollen means no fingerprint. No fingerprint means no verifiable origin. The trail is gone before you even open the lid. That crystal clear, perfectly smooth appearance most people read as quality, that's a processing decision, not a purity signal. Heavy filtration is what produces that look. Minimally handled honey coming straight from a hive doesn't look like that.
This jar has nothing to offer. Number 9. Kroger Honey. Kroger's store brand follows almost the identical model.
And that similarity isn't a coincidence. It's the store brand system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Kroger's name has come up in legal action. Lawyers who had grocery honey independently lab tested made formal claims about the product's contents. Worth being precise, those claims were disputed, and no court ruled the honey fraudulent.
We're not calling it fake. We're applying the same questions to it that we're applying to everyone else.
And it fails the same way. No clearly named single origin. Filtered for a uniform, shelf-stable appearance. Pollen typically absent. Nothing on the label that gives you an independent way to verify anything you're reading. Here's the pattern worth naming now, because it repeats across every brand in this skip list.
The problem isn't always what's inside the jar. It's what the brand refuses to tell you.
A label that commits to nothing creates no accountability. That vagueness isn't an oversight. It's a feature of the model. A honey with real integrity has a story. An anonymous blend has a logo. That's the entire difference.
And it shows up on every store brand shelf in every grocery chain in the country. Number 8, Market Pantry Honey.
Friendlier packaging, slightly different price, structurally identical problem. Outside packer unknown, single origin absent, pollen filtered out. Third-party testing nowhere visible. And because the label was never specific enough to commit to anything in the first place, sourcing can shift between batches without a single word on the jar ever needing to change. There's nothing to update because nothing was ever promised. Here's the part nobody in the industry wants, said plainly. Store brand honey isn't produced by people trying to deceive you.
It's produced by a supply chain engineered for cheapness and consistency.
The only way to deliver both at scale is to blend honey from multiple countries, filter everything until it looks and tastes identical regardless of where it started, and optimized for a shelf life measured in years rather than seasons. Rational business. Structural opposite of traceable, honest honey. One detail that lands harder once you understand it. The color in this jar never changes. Batch to batch, season to season, the same golden tone. Real honey changes color because it follows the flowers. Spring honey looks different from fall honey from the same hive.
When nothing varies, the consistency is coming from a process, not from nature.
That's not a quality signal. It's a processing signal most shoppers are never told how to read. Number 7, members mark honey. Genuine credit where it's due. Value per ounce here is real. If you bake regularly or go through honey by the cup, the price efficiency is hard to argue with. But price efficiency and purity are not the same goal.
This jug is winning one and losing the other completely. At bulk scale, the honey is almost always blended across multiple countries.
The label may actually list several possible source regions, which sounds informative until you understand what it's really saying. The honey in your jug could be any combination of those origins in any proportion, depending on which batch you happen to pick up. There's no mechanism to know. Heating is part of the process, necessary for moving honey through industrial equipment at this volume. Traceability is essentially zero. When you're blending honey by the ton across multiple international suppliers, tracing any of it back to a single hive isn't just difficult.
It's not the point of the product. Here's the economics reality that applies to every bulk budget honey on any shelf.
A single hive produces roughly 60 pounds of honey per year. Factor in hive maintenance, seasonal labor, extraction equipment, testing and transport, and real raw honey cannot be produced and sold profitably at these price points.
The math simply doesn't work. When the economics can't support real honey, something else is making up the gap.
A price isn't just a number, it's a signal. And unlike the label, that signal is rarely wrong. Number 6, Golden Blossom Honey. This one deserves a different kind of hearing. Because unlike everything we've covered so far, it has never actually hidden what it is.
Golden Blossom is a blend, always has been.
A signature combination of different honey varieties engineered for one consistent, familiar taste.
Same flavor in 1975, same flavor today. It's been upfront about that from the beginning.
And that transparency genuinely puts it ahead of most of what we've covered. But honesty about being a blend can't change what blending means for traceability. A blend came from multiple places. You can't trace it back to one source. And there's a detail here that reveals more about the product than the label ever will. Real single-origin honey changes. Spring honey from the same hive doesn't taste like fall honey. Different flowers, different nectar, different weather create genuinely different jars. That natural variation is the fingerprint of a product tied to a real place and a real season. Golden Blossom tastes identical every single time. That's a manufacturing achievement, not a quality one. The seasonal character real honey naturally carries has been deliberately averaged out, batch after batch, to deliver the same result the label has promised for 50 years. Honest about what it is, built for familiarity, not traceability. For this investigation, it can't pass.
Number 5, Brunswick Skinless and Boneless Honey.
Wait, Brunswick? That's a seafood brand. And that's exactly the point. Brunswick is one of the largest packaged food brands operating across North America.
With deep supply chain infrastructure that extends across multiple food categories, including honey-based products and condiments.
What makes Brunswick worth understanding here isn't one specific honey jar. It's what their model represents at scale. A brand with massive consumer trust, operating across categories, where the Kirkland-style assumption applies. Someone already checked this. That assumption is dangerous in any food category. But it's especially dangerous in honey, where the supply chain is global. The pollen is routinely removed, and the label is under no legal obligation to tell you where the product actually started. Brand recognition is not the same as product integrity. A familiar name on a jar is not documentation of what's inside it. And the more trusted the brand, the more that trust gets spent instead of earned. That's the Brunswick lesson, and it applies to every major packaged food brand that has quietly expanded into honey, while carrying a reputation built somewhere else entirely. Number 4, Whole Foods 365 Organic Honey, a brand with massive consumer trust, operating across categories, where the Kirkland-style assumption applies. Not because it hides in a discount aisle, because it hides behind the one word that health-conscious shoppers trust more than any other: organic. Whole Foods built its entire identity on a promise: clean food, transparent sourcing, better ingredients. People drive out of their way to shop there. They pay more without complaint because they believe something is fundamentally different inside those walls.
So when you see the 365 label with organic printed on the front, the thought is natural.
If I can't trust this one, what can I trust? Here's the problem. The organic certification on honey doesn't mean what most people think it means. USDA organic certification for honey controls how the beekeeper manages the hive, the equipment, the treatments, the hive materials.
That's it. It cannot control where the bees actually fly, and bees don't read labels.
They forage up to 3 miles from the hive. They visit whatever flowers they find, including fields treated with herbicides, pesticides, and agricultural chemicals that have nothing to do with organic farming. The nectar gets mixed inside the hive.
There is no way to separate it after the fact. But here's where it gets worse.
Independent pollen testing flagged Whole Foods 365 honey for the exact same issue as every other brand on this list. Ultra-filtered, pollen removed, origin untraceable.
The word organic on the label is covering a product with no verifiable source. Think about who's buying this jar.
Someone who specifically chose Whole Foods to avoid exactly this problem.
Paying double the price of a regular grocery store jar for a certification that the actual contents don't fully support.
Premium price, premium branding, same missing pollen. If this helped, a quick like goes a long way.
Now the next two are the ones people buy when they're trying to do better.
That's what makes them the hardest to talk about. Number 3, Nature Nate's 100% raw and unfiltered honey.
Higher price, bold front label language.
It sits in the natural food section, right next to the organic nut butters and cold-pressed juices.
The packaging is warm, the font looks almost handwritten. The label says exactly what health-conscious shoppers have been trained to seek out. People who already know about ultrafiltration, people who are specifically trying to avoid the problems we've covered. Nature Nate's built an entire brand for that audience. Then the lawsuits arrived. In 2023, Nature Nate's was named in a wave of class action lawsuits.
Plaintiffs alleged the honey was diluted with corn syrup and rice syrup.
But there's a second layer that goes even deeper than the adulteration allegation. Scientists challenge the raw claim directly. Their argument, the processing temperatures used in production destroy the enzymes and antioxidants that define what raw actually means. If the heat eliminates what made honey raw, the word on the label is describing something that no longer exists inside the jar. The FDA is not ambiguous on this. If a product contains honey mixed with another sweetener, you cannot legally call it honey. You cannot call it unfiltered. Those labels carry legal meaning.
And a product that doesn't meet the standard isn't allowed to carry them. NatureNate's response to the lawsuit was a motion to dismiss, not a published lab report. Number 2, Kirkland Signature Honey.
This one is frustrating in a very specific way because the entire Costco model runs on earned trust.
The Kirkland name has spent decades building a reputation across every product category it touches.
Members plan their households around it. When Costco puts their label on something, the assumption is automatic. Someone already vetted this. Someone already asked the hard questions, so I don't have to. That assumption is the business model. And it's exactly what makes this entry the most systemically damaging brand on this list.
Kirkland Signature Honey was named in the same 2023 class action filings as NatureNate's.
Same allegations, diluted with corn syrup and rice syrup, ultra-filtered, pollen removed, origin untraceable. The Costco name didn't protect the product. It just made more people trust it without asking a single question.
And bulk buying makes this worse in a way that's worth spelling out. You're not bringing home one small jar you'll finish in a week.
You're bringing home the 2-pound jug, you're drizzling it over breakfast, stirring it into drinks, giving it to your kids across months of daily meals, every time believing it's delivering genuine nutritional value to their bodies. If the allegations in those filings reflect what's actually in the jug,
it may carry no more nutritional benefit than the corn syrup sitting in your baking cabinet.
Same sweetness. None of the enzymes, antioxidants, or natural compounds that real honey is supposed to provide. The Kirkland label didn't protect the product. It protected the assumption. And the assumption is exactly what this entire system depends on, consumers never questioning.
Number 1 on the skip list, the model that produces all of them. Before I name number 1, you need to understand something that explains how the entire honey industry arrived at this point.
Because this isn't really about one brand's decisions. It's about a system designed around one core assumption, that consumers will trust the label and never look underneath it. Honey used to be genuinely local, not as a marketing concept. Literally local. You knew the beekeeper. You knew which fields the hives sat beside.
Spring honey tasted different from summer honey because the flowers were different.
The jar had a real address, a real season, a real person behind it. Then demand scaled in a way local beekeeping never could. Everyone wanted more honey, cheaper, year-round. So the industry went global. Honey started crossing oceans by the shipping container. Large operations began blending supplies from multiple countries into uniform products built for consistency and shelf life. To keep all that blended honey looking clean and stable for months on a grocery shelf, it had to be filtered harder. And the harder it got filtered, the more the pollen disappeared. Without pollen, the jar becomes anonymous. Honey deliberately routed through extra countries to scramble the origin trail, to avoid tariffs, to bypass safety standards. Honeygate wasn't a single incident. It was a documented systemic pattern. Most people think they're buying honey. What they're actually buying is a process. A process that blends, filters, standardizes, and quietly removes every piece of information that would let you know where the product started. The label fills that empty space with words. Words like pure, words like natural, words like raw. Pure is not a certified standard. It carries no legal definition in this context. It requires no documentation, no testing, no outside verification.
Any brand can print it, which makes number one exactly what it is.
The store brand model itself, taken to its absolute logical conclusion. Contracted to an outside packer whose name never appears on the label. Origin listed as a blend with no specifics about what that blend contains or in what proportion. Pollen filtered out. Testing not published anywhere a shopper can find. Sourcing that can shift between batches without the label ever reflecting it.
And on every single jar in clean, confident font on the front, pure. The store brand model sits at number one not because any single jar is the most dangerous product on this list.
It's because the model is engineered to be permanently unverifiable. You cannot trace it. You cannot check it. You cannot confirm a single claim on the label independent of the label itself. All you can do is trust the logo. And a logo is the one thing this entire investigation has proven you cannot rely on.
Now that you know what to put back, here are 4 tests you can run tonight. No lab, no equipment.
Most take under 60 seconds. Test 1. The water test.
Fill a glass with cold water, drop in 1 full spoonful of honey. Do not stir. Watch what happens. Real honey is dense. It sinks immediately, holds its shape, and settles at the bottom in a clean, tight mound. Honey thinned with corn syrup or rice syrup spreads within seconds. It clouds the water. It disperses before your spoon even hits the counter. If you want to go further, wait 30 seconds, then stir slowly. Real honey leaves a thick residue that resists dissolving. You have to work at it. Added syrup essentially disappears.
1 minute, 1 glass. You'll know more than that label has told you in every year you've been buying it.
Test 2. The crystallization check. Real honey crystallizes. Not because it's old, not because it's spoiled, because it's real. Crystallization is chemistry. The natural sugars in genuine honey, glucose and fructose, form crystals over time. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. So if your jar has been sitting on a shelf for months and still looks perfectly smooth, completely liquid, crystal clear, that is not a quality feature. That is a red flag. Ultrafiltration and added syrups resist crystallization. Pure honey gets thick, grainy, and opaque over time. A jar that never changes was probably never entirely honey. Test 3. The label audit. Turn the jar around. Forget the front, that's marketing.
You're looking for 3 specific things on the back. First, a country of origin, not product of multiple countries, not a blank space.
Now that you know what to put back, here are 4 tests you can run tonight. No lab, no equipment. That omission isn't an oversight, it's an admission. Second, a harvest or packing date. Real honey ages like fresh juice. Without a date, you have no idea if you're buying this season's harvest or something that's been sitting in an industrial storage tank for 2 years. Third, the absence of the words ultra-filtered or blend. Ultra-filtered is not a premium processing term.
It is a description of evidence removal. No country, no date, those words present. Put it back.
Test 4. The price check. This one is pure logic.
A single hive produces roughly 60 pounds of honey per year. Factor in hive maintenance, seasonal labor, extraction, and real raw honey cannot be produced and sold at a profit at bottom shelf prices. The math simply doesn't work. The price isn't just a number, it's a signal, and the signal always tells the truth, even when the label doesn't. Now for the 4 that actually passed. Best option number 3, YS Eco Bee Farms Raw Honey.
This brand runs on one proposition: raw, unfiltered, minimally processed.
It doesn't dress itself up with a perfectly clear, uniform appearance. The jar is cloudy.
It crystallizes. It looks like something that came from a hive rather than an industrial bottling line.
Because that's genuinely closer to what it is. The certified organic and raw designations here are real standards with real criteria attached.
They are not feel-good language, and any brand can print without meeting any requirement.
You're looking for 3 specific things on the back. First, a country of origin, not product of multiple countries, not a blank space.
It's not the cheapest option on the shelf. But the price isn't paying for a logo. It's paying for honey that still behaves the way honey behaves when it's left mostly alone. It's widely stocked across major retailers, which matters practically. A great product you can't find doesn't help anyone.
And the texture shifts with the season. Some batches are darker, some crystallize faster.
That inconsistency isn't a quality problem. That's what honey made by actual bees in actual places looks like. Best option number 2, single origin, raw, third-party tested honey. This isn't one specific brand, it's a standard, and it's the standard that separates everything on the skip list from everything that passes.
A jar that qualifies here names one specific origin, one country, one region, sometimes one farm. The origin is what the label leads with, not something buried in small print.
The honey is raw or close to it, lightly strained to remove debris, not pushed through industrial filters to achieve a uniform commercial look.
The pollen is intact. The trail back to the source leads somewhere real.
The strongest brands at this tier post their third-party test results somewhere that you can actually find them before you buy. Independent lab verification, publicly available, confirming the honey matches the label. A brand that pays for outside testing is a brand prepared to be caught if it doesn't deliver.